Well, hello, friend, and welcome to another episode of Van Life Living in the Ark. You know, I haven't done any walking and talking in a while. I'm always sitting in my chair everywhere. And I was thinking about wearing my hat, friend, but it's just too hot out here today, now that the rain quit. Because I'll tell you, it was kind of cooler and rainy, and then all of a sudden, well, that weather went and changed up on me. Got sunny, but now it's starting to cloud up. Tell you the truth, that might rain on me again. I just don't know. Anyway, I'm on here to talk about what I always talk about, right? Jesus, and about this Holy Spirit, and purpose of the world to come to know love by experience. Well, then I talk about a couple other things, as you know, and not that I necessarily like to, but Holy Spirit moves me to talk about a lot of things, right? Because I just wish everybody would understand that the purpose of the world is to come to know love by experience and then make that choice. Because if they would, well, then we'd have this wonderful world and we wouldn't have to worry about anything, would we? But unfortunately, that's not the choices that we seem to be making as the human race. But Jesus said this was going to happen, right? Oh, look there, friend. I don't know if you can see it. I'm not going to bother getting photos of it. Those wine berries are starting to open up, which is good. Oh, wait a minute. Those are some blackberries that looks like amongst the wine berries. Friend, I'm going to have to get me one of those just because I can. Most of them are in there way out of reach, but here's a really nice one. I love this time of year because you get to eat berries while you're hiking, right? You don't even have to worry about whether you got a snack. You'll find a snack sometimes in the woods. And sometimes, you know, I'll walk those railroad tracks. We got to be careful there and along the road because they do all this spraying chemicals. So it's not always safe to be eating stuff. Well, what I know is that the hour is getting late, friend. I'm not going to lie to you, right? That's what I'm always on here talking about. I'm telling you that the purpose of the world is to come to know love by experience. That's the reason my Father created the world, right? I'm not lying to you. Because, let me explain it to you a little bit here. I've been explaining it some. Nobody believes me, friend, but I've seen my Father in the beginning. So, whether you believe it or not, I know what I'm talking about. In the beginning, there was only my Father. There was no creation. He's the original I am. Except he said I am, except even though he was everything, he was nothing, right? Because he was the only thing. You know, when people think of God, they think of some deity on some foreign planet or something or other, and he created the earth. Friend, they're not getting it. And since I've seen him in the beginning, I get it, but I can't explain it to you because you can't put it into words. It was the most terrifying experience I ever had and the greatest gift he ever gave me. Because my Father has no form, literally. My Father's the original thought of it all. I don't know how to explain it to you. I don't know how to make that make sense to you. But when you're in the beginning with him and there is nothing else, it is quite terrifying, friend. Let me explain it to you this way. You know, when you put people in prison for not doing the right thing, when they screw up in there, they throw them in isolation. So the ultimate punishment of the ultimate punishment, friend, is isolation. So understand, in the beginning, my Father was I am, and he was in pure isolation. Except for there is no beginning and no end the way you understand it, and he exists outside of time. So for me to try to even describe it to you, it's just impossible. I can tell you this, my Father's so great that he can't get any greater. But he's so great that he keeps getting greater all the time, even though he's always been that great. How can I say that? How could that even make sense, right? Well, I'll tell you how. Because he was at the end and the beginning at the same time. Because he exists outside of this thing that you call time. He's everywhere and nowhere all at the same time. if my Father ever left, all of creation would go with him. I can't explain to you what I know. But what I can tell you is that he created all of this because he was. And he didn't create it so that he could stare at it and watch us murder each other. Understand that he created us as a gift to himself. So the human race is the gift God gave to himself. Right? We're the ones with free will. The animals, they do what they do because they do it by instinct. They have to. It's pretty much what goes on. But humans, we're different. We have a frontal cortex. We think things through. We're something different than what the rest of creation was like. So understand, there's all kinds of things in this world to conflict with each other to make this truth seem untrue. But if you've went and looked at just a tinge of quantum physics, friend, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. I don't understand it. I just went and watched the base on what they based it off of and realized that even Einstein had theories on it. Now, they don't say he's right, but tell you the truth, friend, I don't care. The concept proves the fact that even though this all seems as very real as it could be, that there's a greater existence, a greater reality that you can't understand here. And he didn't show me this spiritual realm in the way that, they talk about angels and demons and all that. I don't know nothing about that. I don't need to. I understand that the thought of Satan is a spirit, meaning a thought. And it's in your head and mine. It's our adversary. It's not God's. My Father doesn't have an adversary. There's nothing that could stand against the original thought of it all, friend. It's just impossible. If my Father wanted this thought of Satan gone, it would be gone in an instant. In the Bible, it said that this thought of Satan was God's greatest creation. It's not because it's so beautiful, because that's not the truth, even though it is. Because what's so beautiful about it is it creates free will. Because of this thought of Satan, this thought of what is not yet is, because all there is love, because my Father's all there really is. But nothing could exist outside of himself unless he created a dichotomy which allows you to have free will, because otherwise you'd have no choice. You would be God's slave, his pet. You would be nothing because you wouldn't be able to make a choice, and therefore he would not know his love by experience, because it would be the only experience you have. So in that way, God had to create something that is not yet is, and it is a thought of selfishness, which is the thought of Satan. The church turns it into this big boogaboo, that's what religion does, because they can't understand it. I'm giving this to you in plain and simple terms, friends, so that you might understand. Now, whether you accept this truth as true or not is irrelevant. And whether you like the fact that it's true or not is irrelevant. But I can tell you, friend, if you went and people get married and have children because they want to love someone. They want to be in a relationship. Imagine yourself being, in the beginning, the only thing that existed. You would create children. I mean, you're doing it here, right? So, and you know that this world's on its way out, friend. Everybody can see how bad this is getting, and people are still having kids. Do you get that? So don't blame my Father and say, oh, I can't believe he's doing this. Friend, you all are repopulating even though you know we're going down the rabbit hole. So understand that my Father's in the same boat as you. He doesn't want to be alone forever. So he created us. Now I'm telling you that free will choice still can be made. And we could stop doing what we're doing. You know, recovery is real, friend. I'm not kidding you. But the problem is we all have to make that choice. And friend, not even the Christians will give up their selfishness and choose love over selfishness. Get that? The ones that said they know Jesus refused to do what God asked. So, if they won't do it, why is anybody else going to do it, friend? So I'm just giving you a heads up here that I'm hoping you're really thinking about what you're thinking about. Because if you want to make a change, I'm ready to try to make it with you, friend. I've told you, I'll put myself on the altar if it'll save you all. But I don't think it will. But understand, I'd be a counterfeit Christ. You understand that, right? Because my Father only needed one son on the altar. And let's get this clear. It's not that my Father's angry. He knew the end in the beginning. He knew this way this was going to go. He knew that he had to sacrifice his firstborn son, not because he was angry, but because you won't quit thinking he is. Because the thought of Satan makes you hide your thoughts from your Father. That's what it does. It's your adversary. So when you do something against the law, the 10 Commandments, which you have to hang all the laws and the prophets, only 2 commandments, right? So whenever you do something to hurt your neighbor and you do something selfish and cause them suffering, your thought of Satan condemns you. He's your condemner. He's the one who talks you into doing something and then condemns you for doing it. That's what he does. That's what its purpose is. Now, you don't have to choose to follow it, because Jesus told you how not to. Jesus told you could have the Holy Spirit. That's your holy thought, and that is a thought of love. But you have to want it. And most people don't even know they want it yet, because they were abiding in the law for the fear of it instead of for the love of it, and they didn't seek out God through the Holy Spirit because the church told them they couldn't. Friend, I'm here to tell you, every Pharisee that ever lied to you, stop listening to him. The hour's late, friend. Go listen to Jesus. I'm telling you that what I'm telling you, Jesus already told you. Jesus didn't tell you about what God was like in the beginning, and I'm not going to try to explain it either, because it won't make any sense to you any more than it would have made sense to me. Friend, I wouldn't have believed it if anybody would have told me what I saw. So I try to explain to you by letting you understand that the ultimate punishment of the ultimate punishment is isolation. That's what people do to torture people. They lock them alone in the dark. And let me make this clear to you, friend. You're not going to do that to my Father. If this Christian nation is going to choose publicly traded corporation, which is the thought of selfishness made flesh, over my Father, I'm going to drag that thought of Satan straight back into hell. And I don't care if you kill me for it. But you get that my Father created us for love. I love my Father. The only way that he can have love is if we give it to him, right? Because it's a free will choice. If he makes us give it to him, if he showed you the truth of who he was, he showed it to me because I made a trade for it, friend. This didn't come free. Nothing ever comes free. Right? Free's kind of an illusion. If you want something, there's always a price to it. But that's not really true, because love gives everything freely. So I freely give it to my Father because I love him. Because once he showed me himself in the beginning. But I told him I was going to, if he'd give me the truth, I'd give him my life, and I have. And I'm not this perfect guy, friend. I'm just not. I'm not this guy that deserves what I've been given. It was given to me by grace. But the only way to keep the kingdom is give it away. So don't you listen to those Pharisees telling you that you receive the kingdom by grace and you can go out and do whatever you want. Because Jesus told you a slave to sin has no permanent place in the kingdom, and he wasn't lying to you. You know, the world gets to a place where we've made so many bad decisions and things are getting so bad now that I don't even have to explain it to you, friend. AI is killing us. The upcoming possible war with China could kill us. There's 100 different things at this point could kill us. I mean, Revelation told you exactly the things that are going to go down. It told you about those things, and you could know them because scientifically they know what would make the sun like ash and the moon like blood. I put it in my clues to the kingdom. Go look. It happened in 536 AD, friend. Sodom, friend. Fire rained down from heaven. Go look on my clues to the kingdom. I put the interview of the guy that did the excavation, the archaeologist. They found it. And literally a comet or an asteroid came out of the atmosphere and exploded in the atmosphere and rained down on Sodom and burned it up. They have found what they call trinitite, which is the terminology they used for what happened to the sand out in the desert from the nuclear blasts of like over 5,000 degrees. It literally turns like sand to glass. Well, they found pottery that had received a blast and had been turned to glass. So understand, this isn't some Christian thing. Scientists have said this. They won't say it's Sodom, obviously, because some of them are atheists. But they also are not denying the fact that a comet or an asteroid, whatever it was, came out of entered the atmosphere and exploded in the atmosphere, and then when it hit the ground, because they even explain how it works. I'm not that much of a scientist, friend. My father has called me to give you this message because I'm just not that sharp of a tool. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, friend. I'm not that smart. But I know how to listen to smart people and figure things out. And I don't listen to one, I listen to several. It isn't like I've just listened to one person say things. I don't believe in Jesus because the church told me to. I believe in Jesus because Jesus gave us a set of commands. The reason my father gave me what I wanted was because I was desperately seeking it, friend. Jesus said he came for those in need of a doctor. I was in a mental hell that I couldn't escape, friend. All you Christians, when I went to your churches, I got nothing but a bunch of jive turkey BS. I kept getting, oh, all you gotta do is believe Jesus died on the cross for you. No, friend, that's a lie. Jesus said he came for those in need of a doctor. If you need a doctor, you go listen to what he had to say. You don't listen to other people tell you anything. You go listen to Jesus directly. If you hear the things I say about breaking down the parables, you're welcome to listen to them. But I'm not telling you to believe me over him. If you want to hear me and then go look at what he said and to help you discern it faster so that you can come to understand it quicker, that's wonderful. But don't you ever put me ahead of Christ. He was the firstborn. That gives him the right to kingship, friend. He is going to be the king. He will be the King of Kings. It doesn't matter how many other kings show up here or not, friend. You aren't getting what's going on. They called him the King of Kings. Don't think that he's the only one. Christ, y'all just aren't getting what's going on here. So understand this, but understand these words. The first will be last, and the last will be first. Y'all aren't understanding a lot of things in that Bible. And I didn't either, friend. I won't lie to you. God hid it from me. I've been looking at the same Bible you were, reading Jesus over and over, and I couldn't see nothing until my father started revealing it to me, left me blind to it. He's left a lot of people blind to a lot of things. But that's because you have to choose him over the world. And then he'll give you something worthwhile. But he won't give you what he gave me. Unless he does, right? I'm not fussy. I want you all to have what I have. I have the kingdom. But this kingdom isn't something wonderful, even though it's wonderful. Friend, if you've noticed my videos, I've got nothing, friend. I don't look pretty. I intentionally do that. I don't want you to think that I'm anything special, because unlike Christ, I have this thought of Satan that has far greater power than him. He was delivered lopsided. He was delivered not fully vine, meaning die to vine fruit, the fruit of two vines. He was delivered without sin. There was a reason for all that. Friend, I'm just a mess up from the beginning to the end. But my Father loves me and he forgives me. And now what I've learned is because he taught me. No one else taught me. Christ himself taught me, and the Father came to me and finished what he started. And that is the Holy Spirit, the holy thought of God, which is in your head, will come to you as a voice. And though it is impossible for you to receive the kingdom through God, meaning through the Holy Spirit, all things are possible. However, you're going to find yourself just like me. You're not going to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes. You got a forked-tongued serpent in your head, friend. The serpent that was in the garden was in their head. The whole crawling on the ground thing, you don't need to understand that. Understand a serpent has a forked tongue and it wiggles half a tongue. And so when people tell you half a truth, they're wiggling half a tongue. I'm here to talk with a whole tongue. I don't care if you believe my truths or not. I'm telling you the truth. And I'm telling you there is a debt that you're going to owe if you don't make a new choice. You can receive this Holy Spirit, but the price is going to be high and the path is narrow. It means you're going to have to give up your selfishness. Doesn't mean you're going to be perfect, but it means you're going to be worried more about serving your neighbor than you are your own selfishness, because Jesus told you that. I mean, it's in parable after parable. He said it in all kind of different ways. Go listen to some of my videos. I've explained it the other day. I was talking about that. You got to hate your mother, your father, your whole family, even yourself. He meant you got to hate your selfishness and theirs, because selfishness causes suffering. You're going to have to choose love over selfishness. If you don't want to do that, you don't want my Father's kingdom, and he's not letting you in. Instead, you're going to ride through the end of the age and pay all that's due. And he told you that in the parable. And he told you that those that spoke like the Pharisees that were his disciples, they were going to owe twice the debt at the end of the age. He told you that. You don't believe me probably if you hear me because you listen to the Christian Pharisees instead of the Jewish Pharisees. He was not judging the people, he was judging the thought system. The problem is with our thoughts, right? Not with who we are. We're divine. We have the choice. However, until you get to know Christ, you're not really fully divine. People, you don't understand, people that really never taught love and they grew up in an addictive household and their parents beat on them and tortured them and things, they're not divine, friend. They need some love to increase. When people don't get to know love and nobody teaches it to them, they've got no love to give because they've had no love to receive. That's why you're supposed to go out and feed the hungry, clothe the naked, and visit those sick and in prison. The more love you give, the more love they have. The more love they have, the more love they have to give, and the greater their chances of receiving this kingdom that my Father promised us all if we chose it. But now the church is not doing that. They're standing on the steps of the temple and saying, woe to you, and blaming them when Jesus told you. He said, the outside of your cup, you like whitewashed tombs. The outside of your cup is clean, but the inside is filthy and full of dead bones. You get what he was saying? He was saying that you look at this speck in their eye so you don't have to look at the plank in your own. That's unacceptable. I'm just telling you. I do it all the time. My Father's taking the plank out of my eye, but I won't lie to you. Even though he's taking the plank out of my eye, it ends up back in my eye. Then I have to ask for forgiveness, and then he gives it to me. I put my thoughts before him, and I say, Father, I didn't even realize it. I start judging people. Would you please forgive me? And he says, well, thanks for asking, Jason. Of course I will. Why do I have the right to ask for forgiveness and get it? Because Christ died so that I may live, friend. That's what gives him the right to be king. He gave you the greatest love of experience than anyone can ever give you, and he gave it to my Father. He didn't die just because he loved you. He died because he loved my Father. But he received the greatest for it. And you're not going to understand this because he said it and referred it to the disciples, but he was actually hinting this out for you later when you got to this place where you were seeking the kingdom. Jesus said his death was going to be like labor pains. Even though he was going to go through great suffering, because he did it, he was going to give birth to a newer, higher thought of love. And that is exactly what he did, friend. He said he was going to get crucified, and then he went and did it, so that you knew that he did it intentionally for you and for my Father. And, friend, nobody wants that death. Jesus himself didn't want it. He told you. You know, he was at the end there. He was weeping and praying and saying, Father, don't make me drink from this cup. Nonetheless, your will be done. So what the Holy Spirit's taught me is to keep my eyes on him, not worry about what's going to happen because I'm talking this message and I'm going to upset people and people are going to not believe. What you believe doesn't matter to me, friend. It's irrelevant. My job is to serve my Father's will, period. That's it. If I finish whatever task he gives me, then it's done. And if he wants to take my life that way, then he'll take it however way he wants. And right now, there's a couple different options. Looks like could be happening. It doesn't matter to me. Understand, friend, he gave me the courage to look at death. Y'all are trying to figure out how not to die. Everybody dies, friend. It's an experience everybody has. It says it right in the Bible. It says everybody has one death, right? I mean, Jesus died, then he was raised from the dead. So he still had to experience death. You say that Elijah got out right? He was taken up without death, but he came back as John the Baptist and had his head cut off. Why? Because Jesus said that multiple times in multiple Gospels. Let me give you this here real quick. Jesus said, before me the kingdom suffered violence and was taken by force, but after me it won't. He went as far as saying that because he came, those that had a seat at the table were going to be thrown back out and have to enter rightly. Do you understand what he's saying there? Now, if you say that John 3:16 is true, you got to believe what Jesus said there's true too. Otherwise, if he's a liar about one thing, he's a liar about the other. Do you get what's going on here? You get how the Pharisees are telling you a bunch of truths that they don't even know if they're true. They're doing the best they can with what they got. I'm not judging them, friend. It's not their fault. They keep getting taught this stuff. We teach each other stupidity. I'm telling you the truth. Friend, I got hurt as a child numerous ways. And I won't lie. I suffered some sexual abuse, some mental abuse, some physical abuse, not by my parents, but friend, I didn't have an easy growing up, and I hated the world, friend. And because I hated the world and it was giving me hell, don't think I wasn't giving it hell in return. I'm telling you. I drank too much. I did drugs. I did all kind of stuff that wasn't right. I didn't care about anybody because I was too selfish to think anybody but myself, because if I'd ever looked at the truth of what I was doing, I'd have had to just kill myself. And I tried that a couple times too, friend. I'm not lying to you. So I'm not here to tell you how wonderful I am. I'm here to tell you that I am my Father's prodigal son. He has raised me up out of hell, and I want you to raise yourself up out of hell. But you can't do it, but my Father will do it for you. If you want newer thoughts, you go study Jesus and do the things he asked. He told you to give your gifts in secret. He was not lying. You have to do that. If you're like me and you're in hell, you're going to need to put treasure in the kingdom that this thought of selfishness, which is your thought of Satan, can't steal from you, because it's going to try. Friend, it used to steal my treasure. It would put me in a spiritual deficit. I'd be going through a hard time when I was feeling bad about myself because I made a mistake, or it would start making me feel guilty about all the things I did in the past. And I'd be like in this spiritual deficit and feeling terrible. And then it would come to me and like, why don't you tell them people about that good thing you did, and then you'll feel better because you'll have, then they'll tell you what a good person you are. Now, I didn't realize what I was doing at the time. I'm explaining to you after the fact. So when I was feeling bad, I would give up my treasure. I'd be like, oh, well, I didn't tell anybody, but I did this good thing for so-and-so and blah, blah. And people would go, oh, Jason, you're so wonderful. And I'd be like, oh, I know, thank you, right? You know what that did? That gave me pride, friend. That thought of Satan loves pride. That thought of selfishness. And not only that, but then when you go to say you're a good person next time, you know what that thought has the ability to say to you now, friend? It says, you didn't keep that in the kingdom, you took it back out. You're selfish. You were doing that for selfishness. It was never about God, it was always about you. You're pathetic. That's the voice that I used to have in my head, friend. And it might not have said exactly those words, but that's exactly the way it comes across when it's talking to you. Because, friend, we all have thoughts of ourselves. And anybody that knows Christ is going to have two thoughts, right? Because the Holy Spirit is your holy thought, which is your thought of love. And Jesus said, loving those that love you, that's easy. Even the sinners and tax collectors do that. What credit is that to you? You have to love them all, friend. I'm not joking with you here. I'm telling you the truth. If you want the kingdom, you have to be willing to bring it. It means you got to make a new choice. But you can. If I can do it, you can do it, friend. I promise. Because the purpose of the world is to come to know love by experience. That's all my Father wants. If we love our neighbor as ourselves, then we bring the kingdom. And because we bring the kingdom, we get the kingdom. It's that simple. But the two things is, my Father did create this world for that purpose, and so that he could know love as you're knowing love. So you do have to abide in those 10 commandments and put your neighbor first, because understand, you can't give God a gift, right? All you can do is worship him in spirit and truth, which is to adore him in thought and love. The way you give God a gift is you give it to your neighbor that needs it. I didn't tell him it's from God. And then because you're giving them love for God or for Christ, well then they start loving them because they start loving you, right? That's how you give my Father a gift. So this isn't like rocket science here, friend. I'm laying it out here for you real simple. Even though it sounds simple, it's not simple. If you're like me, you're selfish. And it's hard to give up your selfishness. I'm not lying to you, friend. Until you are willing to look at the speck in your, or the plank in your eye, you're going to continue to look at the speck in your neighbor's eye and justify hypocrisy. And nobody can make you stop doing it until you choose to. So, but just know that my Father loves you. And because he loves you, I love you. I don't care if you're Christian, Muslim, atheist, Buddhist. It don't matter to me, friend. My Father created you to know love by experience. That's it. However, if you want to enter the coming kingdom, Christ is king. He died so that you may live. You can't enter his kingdom without it. So therefore, you can't be here for what you call heaven if you're not willing to make that decision. Because I'm going to tell you something, friend. Before I really believed in Jesus, because I used to try to say I believed in Jesus, but I didn't believe in forgiveness. But because I couldn't find forgiveness, I couldn't give forgiveness. And it's a real hard task. And if I would have really understood Jesus from the beginning, this would have made it much easier. But I was not, God showed me the truth of himself, but I didn't listen. Every time he gave me a miracle, and I'd go tell people, they'd be like, "Oh no, that's an illusion, Jason. That's coincidence." Friend, you can call your miracles coincidence all you want. But what happened is they started adding up for me. Coincidence after coincidence. And then my Father did, because he really wanted me to understand this truth, so I'll do it for him. And that is, he gave me a truth in ways that there's just no denying. I cannot deny that God exists. I cannot prove it to you, but I can't disprove it to myself because he proved it to me. He gave me gifts. And they're things that are meaningless, friend. It's not that these gifts he gave me are so wonderful. That's just not the case. But what happened is, he gave them to me in such ways that I had a voice come to me and tell me exactly where to go to get things that I was desired in my life. And they weren't big things. One was a tall ship. Just a little thing, just for the mantle. But I literally had a voice come to me and tell me to make a turn that I wasn't going to make and go a direction I thought I already went. And it led me directly to the place where there was a tall ship at a yard sale. You can't make this stuff up, friend. Another time he sent me to get a bike that I wanted, but I didn't want that bike because I knew it was too cheap. It was at Walmart and it was junk. Even though it looked pretty, it wasn't going to last but 30 seconds. He insisted I went. For half an hour I argued with this thought in my head, but it would not quit telling me to go, so I went. I went there. There was another man there that I met there, and I was waiting for, it's a long story, but this is what happened. Just before I got mad and left because I couldn't get anybody to help me out the way I was asking, and nobody there understood, the guy that I was trying to deal with didn't understand English, and then he left me standing there and left. This other guy came along with his wife and said, "Oh, I have a bike hanging on the rack." Now understand, instead of getting this junk bike for $300, for $75, I got a bike that was in new condition. There was a far better brand that was in amazing shape, and I got a car rack, I got saddlebags, I got everything, friend. I walked away from there, and I only did it because God demanded I do it, and I knew it was God, and even though at first I didn't. But I knew it was God because he wouldn't quit, because that's the way the Holy Spirit works with me. If he wants me to do something, he gets relentless, right? The thought just keeps coming. It's happened different times in my life. I can't prove that to you, friend. I sound like a crazy dude. I know that. I don't expect you to believe it. I'm telling you that my Father will work miracles in your life if you will just but believe. But if he gives you a miracle and you call it a coincidence, don't blame my Father that you stop coming and then you end up cast into the darkness. Because the miracles he gave me, I, for so long, kept denying them to be miracles. And then I wanted to consider them miracles, but I didn't have a whole lot of faith. Understand, friend, some of the stuff I went through as a kid, you don't understand what happens when a child gets condemned. They're so young, they don't have, I was at a very young age, friend, when some of that traumatic stuff happened to me. Let me tell you something, friend. How am I supposed to believe in a loving God when I'm getting traumatized at like 8, 9 years old? Are you getting it? Maybe 7. I don't even remember. Some of the stuff happened. The abuse and stuff. I don't even remember the ages of all of it, friend. I just remember it turned me into something I didn't want to be, and it's just the way it was. So I'm telling you that I forgive them, for they know not what they do. I don't need to tell you who it was. I don't condemn them. I still love them, and I forgive them because they know not what they do. Because they were doing, I'm sure they were causing hell because someone else caused them hell. Friend, we keep doing this to each other, and nobody will give forgiveness. If you call for justice when justice gets served because others call it on you, you're getting your justice just like those that you call justice on. So I hope you understand that. Jesus said you had to forgive in order to be forgiven. He told you that when you went before him and he gave you forgiveness, that if you went back out and then you held other people accountable and would not forgive them, that he was going to drag you back before him, and he was going to cast you into prison so that you could pay all that was due. That was a parable. He was talking about himself and you, friend. I hope you get that. He wasn't talking to the Jews. Stop listening to these Pharisees telling you he wasn't talking to you. They're liars. Don't listen to them. Jesus was talking to you and I, friend. He was laying down kingdom rules so that we could make a choice. Forgive and you will be forgiven. Love and you will be loved. Give mercy and you'll receive mercy. Right? That's what Jesus said. I'm not lying to you. Go read. I really do love you, friend. I really want you to find this. But the problem is, because religion has figured out how to call Jesus a liar about half of everything he said, nobody believes anything. And I'm here to tell you, if you guys won't quit telling lies and start talking truth, then you put me on my altar, friend. Because understand this, I can't die for you. Christ died for you. But I'll die for my Father and for Christ. And then because I give my life for them, you'll know that Christ existed. Because you'll know I know him, because nobody has the courage to die unless they listen to Jesus. Because Jesus said, he who saves his life will lose it, but he who loses his life for his sake will gain it. Friend, I'm going to gain mine. I know it. Guaranteed. I've seen my Father in the beginning. You can't convince me otherwise. It just won't work. So get this. It's time. It's time for you to read what Jesus said and forget what everybody else said about what he said. Call me a liar. I don't care. Go read Jesus and see if what I said isn't what he said. Because if you hate what I've told you, you hate what he said too. And because you hate me, you hate him. And because you hate him, you hate my Father. Do you understand that? And so therefore, it's time for you to love the Father and the Son. And it's not that I'm him, because I'm not. But Jesus said that if you invite him in, he comes in and makes his home in you. And because he makes his home in you, the Father will come and make his home in you also. So I'm in my Father, and my Father's in me because Jesus said so. And he said that I'm supposed to not think about what to say before when I go before the judges, friend. And you're my judge. You're listening to me. People listen to my videos. You are my judges, friend. I don't care if you condemn me. It doesn't matter. I open my mouth and let my Father speak on my behalf because I don't know what to say. Do you think I want to put myself on the altar? Friend, Jesus didn't want to go. I don't want to go. But I have to tell you the truth, that my Father's going to get his children there no matter how he has to do it. He keeps putting child after child on the altar, friend. Martin Luther King Jr., he told you, he said, I've been to the mountaintop and seen the kingdom, and the kingdom's come to Montgomery. Then he went out and helped all those people until they murdered him. Do you think I'm not going to see him in the kingdom, friend? I sure hope you don't think that it's like for only white people or something, because you are so in trouble. Because that man, he deserves the kingdom. Do you know Gandhi? that freed a nation without ever raising a hand? Did you know that he said that he talked to the Father and the Father talked to him? Now, he didn't say that he wouldn't admit to being Christian, because you got to understand that Britain was putting, his people. But look, he died. He died for not just his people. He died for other people too. He completely loved God and loved all my Father's children. To him, justice had to be done, period. And I'm here to tell you the same. When I say justice, I don't mean condemn, I mean forgiveness. That's what Gandhi said. Gandhi said, don't fight, but don't tolerate it. So I'm telling you, I'm not going to fight, but I'm not going to tolerate this publicly traded corporation murdering my Father's children. I'm just not doing it. And I've been telling you that video after video, so I hope you get that. Because I don't have to forgive them because they don't exist. A publicly traded company is a set of laws on paper, and we gave them citizenship in this nation. Friend, if you don't take away their citizenship and get rid of these things and do something different, then you're just not getting this, friend. My Father's not going to let them steal his age. He told you that. It's in Revelation. Go look. Please. All right, friend, just know that I love you because my Father loves you. That's it. I'm not mad at anybody. We all did this by mistake. Nobody meant to do this to each other. We've just been doing it by accident because we weren't thinking about what we were thinking about. And a lot of the people don't even have enough love. A lot of those people in prison that are hurting people, they don't even know any better. Nobody treated them any better. Why do you expect them to know better? So let us go treat them better. I'm going to tell you something, friend. You'll have some of the most amazing experiences when you start working with some of these folks that you're thinking they're bad people. One of my most spiritual moments I had teaching in prison, friend. I'm not lying to you. I learned some real truth about some real people. It was a life-changing event for me, friend. I'm telling you, go do the things he asked and you'll find a greater kingdom. Scout's honor. Not that I'm a scout anymore, but I used to be when I was a kid. For a while. Not a good scout, though. I never, anyway. I was making a joke. So anyway, just trust that my Father loves you, and that's just the way it is. And he's going to forgive you if you'll just ask for it, and then you won't have to pay the upcoming debt that you're going to have to pay. But if you won't give forgiveness, you won't receive it, and because you scream for justice, you're going to get it. So I hope you're not one of these Christians that are screaming for justice, because the justice you seek, you're going to get. Jesus told you that. I'm not a liar, neither was he. So I hope you're going to go read the words in red and get what he was saying. All right, friend. May God bless you and yours.